Hi St. Edward's friends, it's Miss Erica here, and I am sitting on my couch next to this big window, and I'm looking outside at my garden and at the street and at the trees, and I can see that the wind is blowing quite strong today. And that reminded me of a book that I have called What Makes the Wind? And this book was written by Laurence Santry, and Bert Dodson did all of the pictures in this book. Kind of a long one, but I think we can get through it. What is the wind? Nobody can see the wind, but everybody can see what it does. Wind turns an umbrella inside out. In autumn, it makes brown leaves skip across the ground. Wind moves sailboats over a lake. It makes a field of tall grass dance and ripple. It cools your hot face on a sunny summer day. There is wind all the time, day and night. Sometimes it is strong enough to knock down houses and trees. Sometimes it is so soft you cannot feel it. When we cannot feel the wind, the air is calm, but the wind is always blowing, even on the calmest day. Heat and cold make the wind blow. Here is how it happens. Hot air is light. Because it is light, hot air rises. You can see the hot air rising when smoke comes out of a chimney. Cold air is heavier than hot air. Because cold air is heavy, it sinks. If you have ever slept in bunk beds, you may have already learned that the air is always warmer on the top bunk. Now you know why. It is because warm air rises and cool air sinks. What happens outdoors when the air gets warm and rises? As the warm air moves up, it leaves an empty space. But that space does not stay empty for long. As soon as the warm air leaves, cold air moves into its place. Cold air and hot air are always changing places. These changes make the wind blow. You can see how this happens. When you go to the beach at the edge of the water, you will feel a cool sea breeze. I even feel that next to the rivers in Eau Claire. It's always cooler next to the rivers, the cold air blowing off of the water. The sun is bright over the sea and the beach. The sand gets hot from the sun. The air moves over the beach, and it gets hot too. It begins to rise. But even in the bright sun, the water stays cool. The air over the water is also cool. The cool air does not rise. When the warm beach air rises, it leaves an empty space. The cool air over the sea rushes into the space left by the warm beach air. The rush of cool air is the sea breeze that you feel. So when we're down by the river or by the lake in Wisconsin in the summertime, the sun is warming up the sand or the land around the river. And that warm air rises up. And then the cool air that is out over the water, over the lake or over the river, comes in next to it to fill in that space that the warm air has left. So that's why it's always cooler next to a river or a lake in Wisconsin. All the cool winds in the world are made by warm air rising and cool air falling. When weather reporters talk about cold fronts and warm fronts, they are really talking about large amounts of cold air and warm air. A large amount of air is called a mass. A front is where two masses of air meet. When a cold mass and a warm mass meet, it is like a battle. This battle causes all kinds of winds and weather. That is where storms come from. In the winter, the cold air mass usually wins the battle. When we have freezing winds and snowstorms, the wind makes the snowflakes fly and whirl. It piles fallen snow into high drifts. Winter's worst storms are called blizzards. A snowstorm is called a blizzard when the temperature is very low and the winds are blowing at least 32 miles an hour. In the summer, the warm air mass usually wins the battle. Then we have warm winds and rain showers. Summer's worst storms are hurricanes and typhoons. These are rainstorms with winds that blow at a speed of 70 miles per hour or more. When clouds drift lazily in the sky, the winds pushing them are slow and gentle. This means there will not be much change in the weather. Anytime the winds are fast and strong, the clouds race across the sky. These strong winds are at the front of an air mass. A storm is coming. What I always notice is it seems like animals know when a storm is coming much sooner than humans do. They can tell. They pay attention to those things. Winds bring us many good things. We need the wind to bring the rain that waters our gardens. Trees and other plants need the wind to spread their seeds. Windmills cannot turn without the wind. Birds would have to fly much harder if they did not have wind currents to carry them along. Have you ever seen eagles or birds of prey or gulls kind of soaring above? They're not even flapping their wings. Their arms are just, or their wings are just out like this. And they're just kind of hanging there. And that's because they're catching that warm air that's rising up, and it sort of hits the bottom of their wings and holds them up. Isn't that neat? Winds have names that tell us where they come from. A west wind comes from the west. A south wind comes from the south. Winds also have names that tell us how fast they move. A gentle breeze moves at a speed of 8 to 12 miles an hour. It keeps a flag from drooping against the flagpole. It only takes a gentle breeze to move a flag. A strong breeze moves at a speed of 25 to 31 miles per hour. It makes tree branches sway. A fresh gale moves at a speed of 39 to 46 miles an hour. It makes trees sway and sends trash can lids tumbling down the street. The wind must move at a speed of 55 miles an hour to be called a whole gale. When the wind blows that strongly, it can take shingles off of roofs. So Burley and Ariel and I watched the new Frozen movie, and they named the wind spirit Gale. And that's why they named it Gale, is because a gale is another name for wind. So it's a name for wind that moves objects. So a fresh gale is going to be it's going to be a strong wind, but not very strong. So it can blow over trash cans, it can send things kind of tumbling down the road, and a whole gale is going to be the one that damages your house. or your trees. Some winds have special names. One of these is a southerly wind that blows in the hot, dry desert. This hot wind causes dust storms and sandstorms. It's called a sirocco. There is another very strong wind called a tornado. A tornado is sometimes called a twister because it whirls around and around. It looks like a giant ice cream cone that reaches from the sky to the ground. A twister can whirl as fast as 500 miles an hour. A tornado begins when a large mass of cold air blows over a mass of warm air. The warm air goes up and the cold air wants to go down, and the two masses press very hard against each other. At last, the hot air finds a way through a weak spot in the cold air, and the hot air forces through and goes shooting up, and a powerful wind is born, the terrible tornado. As it whirls, the tornado can tear up trees and smash houses and cars. When a tornado happens over a large body of water, it is called a waterspout. The whirling wind picks up a lot of water until it looks like a tube made of water. More than once, waterspouts have lifted small fish into the clouds. Later, the fish came raining down. There are places where winds blow all the time. In some countries, it is always windy along the ocean coastlines. The steady wind makes the trunks of trees near the water grow bent and crooked. It takes a few years for wind to make a tree grow crooked, but it takes many, many years for wind to wear away rocks. This wearing away of soil and rocks is called erosion. The famous Painted Desert of Arizona was made by erosion. It took thousands of years of winds and storms to form this desert. The wind does not wear away rocks by itself. It blows water and sand against them until they look like carved animals, needles, and all kinds of beautiful and strange shapes. Winds are always at work. They change the face of the earth. A strong wind can take the sand dune you sat on yesterday and move it to the other end of the beach today. The wind brings us sunny days by blowing away the clouds. It brings other clouds filled with rain or snow. It cools us, it warms us, and it sings to us as it speeds through the trees. Our world would be a very different place if we did not have the wind. That is What Makes the Wind by Laurence Santry. Enjoy your windy day, St. Edward's friends. Bye for now.